Profile is presented by Ins Group, Insurance and Benefits.
What originally brought you to Houston?
Well, my husband went to Rice. After we'd been in New York for about 4 years, he was transferred to Houston, and we were happy to come to Houston because he had connections here already, and it was, closer to home for us, and we just really fell in love with Houston, and that's why we're still here.
Talk to me a little bit about historic preservation and what drew you to historic preservation.
Yeah, I was thinking about that last night a little bit. I think I became interested in the whole field when I was a teenager, and my mom and dad would take my sister and I on trips, summer trips, and I was fascinated by cities like Charleston and Washington, D.C. and Boston, where they really did have these historic areas that were well preserved, and they had a pride in their history, and I just found it so interesting. And when I was in college, I studied art history and took a few classes while I was still an undergrad at Virginia. And then when we moved to New Orleans, my first job was as an architectural historian for the New Orleans Historic District Landmarks Commission. And I just talked myself into that job. It was my first real job ever, and I said, well, I can research and I can write papers, and I studied art history, and I think I can figure this out. So that was a great job for the 3 years that my husband was in law school. And then I decided that I wanted to go to graduate school, and so that led us to New York so that I could study historic preservation at Columbia. And it's just been something I've been interested in for such a long time, and it's nice to have something that sort of endures, that you have an interest that you can carry through your life.
What really inspires you and you say, okay, that's something I want to lend my time to, I want to be involved with?
Well, I think you kind of have to be, true to your interests. I mean, I am involved in a number of things, and my husband is also, but they're all things that we have a true interest in and a true passion for. And anything that has to do with, history or design or architecture or preservation, those kind of things, I'm drawn to that in any case. So I'm involved with the Rice Design Alliance and the Greater Houston Preservation Alliance, and, this project, the Julia Ideson Library Preservation Project, which is what I've been spending most of my time on lately. And we're interested in education, involved a little bit in the medical field. My dad was a doctor, but I think that people have to do what interests them. It's not, there's no authenticity if you become involved in something just because it's a fashionable thing to do. I really think you have to have some personal knowledge or personal history or personal interest when you involve yourself in any kind of an organization, because it can be quite time consuming, and you have to be truly interested in it.
What was so inspiring and interesting to you about this particular project, and what does it really entail for you?
We had moved back from London in 2005. So at that time, our 2 oldest daughters were in high school and our son was in middle school. And at home mom, you find things that you are interested in devoting yourself to, and as you can, as your time allows. So I was actually chatting at a cocktail party, and you have to be careful what you say, because I was talking to Jill Jewett, who at the time was the mayor's assistant for cultural affairs. And she was really asking me about my background in historic preservation and what I had done before and been involved with. And I didn't know really much about this Ideson project at all. It hadn't even gotten started. But shortly after that, I got a call from the mayor, which always gets your attention. And he spoke very passionately about his desire to see something done with this Julia Ideson building, and it's kind of catty-cornered from City Hall, so it's just right there. And I think he, saw it every day, coming, going to work. And he, at that time, he talked to me about the Discovery Green project, which was just wrapping up. And since I'd been out of town, I wasn't really aware of that whole public-private initiative that he had put together for Discovery Green. And he said he really envisioned something like that to work for the library project. It just had every little thing that I was interested in, all wrapped up in one. And plus it was I knew it would be a big project. I knew it would be something substantial and something that would be lasting and, I could really sink my teeth into. So it was kind of a good time in my life. I wasn't too involved in other things yet at that time. And, it had everything I was interested in. And in Houston, while there's more historic, there are more historic buildings here than I think a lot of people realize, and I think that kind of the interest in our historic built environment is increasing more than it ever has been before. There still are not many projects that come along where there's an actual, relatively intact building from the 20s that is in a beautiful architectural style that needs restoration, and you get a chance to participate in that. So I really jumped at the opportunity.
Take me through the specific phases. How many there are? So you talked about phase 1 and phase 2, but what are the phases of the project?
Well, phase 1 was the construction of the archival storage wing. So it's a new wing attached to the back of the original building.
Okay.
It was based on the original plans for a wing that was not constructed. So Barry Moore and our architects at Gensler used that as the basis for their design for the new wing.
So Phoebe, this is a lot about preserving the historical integrity of the building overall, but then also bringing certain amenities up to kind of the current needs and requirements that are there
right.
as well.
It really touches a lot of things because it is the home for the Houston Metropolitan Research Center, which is all the city archives, and that is going to stay here. So that was the purpose. That was the first purpose, actually, to provide a better place for the archives, which will be in the new wing, which is completed, and they're moving the things in as we speak. Then the second purpose was the restoration of the original building. And with that comes the opportunity to create these spaces like an exhibition space and meeting spaces that will allow much more use of the building. Because for the last 25 years or so, it's mainly been used by researchers and people who are using the collection. But we're going to have space for events, and I think they envision noontime concerts or, lots of different things would be done in here.
Many more Houstonians ideally will be coming through these doors and utilizing the building in a number of different ways than before. Talk to me a little bit about the challenges of fundraising and how you go about, you're out there actively asking people to contribute to causes that you feel very strongly about. How do you do that?
What we did at the beginning was we built a great team. We got a board. We have a wonderful board of directors, people with lots of different interests and lots of areas of expertise. And that was, the most important first step, because you have to have a support team, and every one of them has, pitched in and helped and recruited friends or given us names or approached people individually or foundations that they're involved with. So, that is a really important groundwork, because it's not a one-man thing at all. It's a huge group effort. But the next thing and the most important thing about fundraising is you really have to believe in it yourself, which is why I said, you want to be involved in something that you are passionate about and that you know something about, because that absolutely comes through. So if you truly believe in it, if you're excited about it, you can speak to people about it in a genuine way, and they realize that, they can tell. And the other thing is you have to just kind of screw up your nerve. You know, you have to be really brave, and it's not easy. You know, I think for most people it's not really easy.